Hello, ladies and gentlemen, VG Musician here, and today we're going to get started with some Super Mario Brothers series, easy piano tutorial, and we're going to dive into some music theory here. And I know a lot of you hear music theory and maybe it freaks you out a little bit because you're not quite familiar with how to read sheet music and you just like to see the notes and you like to play the song, and that's fine. We'll be getting to that, but this video we're really going to talk about the music. We're going to talk about sort of how to read the music and just give you a really high level of what's going on the page so that you've got a bit better of understanding of the song and the feel of the song and the expectations. So the first thing I want to start out with is the composer. So we've got composed by Koji Kondo, very famous Nintendo composer, musical composer. He's done a lot of the epic music Nintendo is so widely known for. And the person who actually arranged this piece is Shinobu Amayake. So hopefully I didn't butcher his name too bad there. The difference between the composer and the arranger. So, a lot of people might be confused by that. The composer is the person who actually comes up with the melody and the harmonies. So the actual da 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 da. So that melody, that combination of notes was created by the composer. So it came out of his brain, fresh into the world, and he came up with it. He created it. So that's what the composer does. The person who arranges that melodic idea and that combination of notes and harmonies is obviously the piano arranger. And they can take that music and they can make it easy, they can make it medium difficulty, they can make it hard. They can write the notes in a way that it sounds like a ballad. They can write the notes in a way where it's more of a jazzy tune. They can make the left hand really complicated and go up and down scales. All sorts of stuff. At the same time, sort of keeping with the ideas that the composer had in mind. So the chords and the melodies. So that's what he's done here for us. This is the Easy Piano Music book. So he's taken the idea that Koji came up with and he's written it in a way where it should be easier to consume for people who are starting out at the piano or the keyboard. So the next thing I want us to take a look at is the key signature. So you'll see here it says original key is C. So this is a good thing for you guys because C is probably the easiest key signature to play in. What it means at a high level is that all of the notes on the page will be the white keys on the piano or the keyboard. And there will be some exceptions to those rules, but if you see the key signature is C, you can say, "Woo, that's nice," because it's really a great first signature to learn. It's the least complicated of them all, so that's a great thing. So this piece is in the key of C. The next thing I want to mention is the tempo. You see, they've told us that the original tempo is 100, so they want us to know that they've knocked it down for us. And what it is actually for this piece is 80. So they've said, okay, this is for easy piano. 100 might be a little bit intense. We're going to make that 80. And what the tempo is, it's how many beats per minute. And that might sound kind of abstract at the moment, but I've got a metronome here, and if you plan on taking lessons or getting serious about piano or keyboard, I highly recommend just going to Amazon, ordering a cheap metronome. But this is what 80 beats per minute sounds like, okay? So for this particular song, it's going to be da 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 da. So that's the speed. So if we were to take it to that original tempo of 100, let me sing that for you guys. Okay, here we go. Da 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 da. So you can see that sounds more like the original. And as you get more comfortable, you can crank it up to 100. But ideally with music, when you're learning a new piece, you never start out at the tempo that it gives you. You don't set yourself up for failure. You want to start out really, really slow. And as you get more comfortable with the piece and the fingerings and you start developing that muscle memory, you can slowly start to increase that tempo and get up to the actual tempo that it says on the piece of music. So that's the key signature, that's the tempo. Now let's scroll down to, what some of this stuff is. I'm going to assume that you guys aren't that familiar with music. If you are, that's fine. Maybe this is a nice refresher for you. But I'm going to assume that you don't really know what any of this is. So I'm just going to give a kind of a high level of what we're looking at on the page here, so it's not quite so daunting. So a lot of things are going on here. First thing you'll notice, there's this set of bars that span the course of the page. There's 5 lines here. Okay, and then they've got these little black dots inside of them. So the lines that span across, that's called the staff, the music staff. And, imagine when you were growing up and you were learning to write, and you would get that paper, and you would need to keep your letters inside of the lines. That's how they sort of taught us good handwriting. So this is similar to that. The notes have to live inside of that staff. And they're placed in a very specific location. And based on the location within the staff, it tells you which actual note to play. So I'm going to leave it at that for now. Just know that each note has to live inside of the staff or relative to the staff, because you'll see this one, hey, Corey, that one's not actually inside of the staff. It's relative to a line on the staff, so don't let that confuse you. We'll discuss that. But what I do recommend is, once again, if you want to dive into sheet music and you want to be able to read stuff on your own, go from Amazon and order some flashcards. And those cards will show you notes relative to the staff, and then you can guess them. And you'll need to be able to do that conversion fairly quickly when you're learning and reading, especially if you're sight reading music, so that you can go to that note on the keyboard of the piano. Okay? So that's the staff. Obviously, we've said these are the notes. What is this weird looking symbol? Well, that is a clef, and that's actually the treble clef. And it's usually used to signify notes that are higher, and will usually identify the melody of the song. And how that translates to piano is the melody is usually the right hand. So everything that's played in the right hand will be on the staff that is marked by the treble clef. So this whole top bar, it's going to be the right hand each time. Okay, so you can probably guess then, well, what is this? Well, that's the bass. This is the bass clef. And this is what the left hand is going to be playing. So I know you might be freaking out. At least when I started, I was really nervous about how am I going to play the left hand and the right hand at the same time. It's very scary. And just be patient with yourself. It's not going to happen immediately, right? It's all muscle memory. It's all repetition. You just have to get comfortable with it. So don't freak out if you're worried that this might be too complicated for you. You can ease yourself in. Maybe when we're learning this, you just decide, hey, I just want to learn the melody, and I can play the melody for my friends and family. Because even with that, people will recognize the song. So, have nice little bite-sized goals that you can accomplish, and don't get overwhelmed. That's the main thing is when you watch these videos of people playing piano, they've been playing for years and years and years. You don't see the practice time that goes into it. You don't see how much time that they've spent off camera. So you immediately get discouraged. But everyone has to start somewhere. So just keep that in mind. So we've got the right hand here, left hand here. Now let's take a look at this weird symbol. Okay, this is the time signature. And I don't want to confuse you too much with the time signature, but basically this is telling us that this song is in cut time, which is a 2-2 time signature. That means there's 2 beats per measure, and the half note gets the beat. Okay, so once again, don't get too confused with that, but that just means that there's 2 beats per measure. So it sounds like this: da 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 da. Okay, so that's the beat, and we'll go into more detail once again. If you're interested in learning in more in depth in these ideas, maybe we'll put together a little theory course. So let's look at this. We've got this weird little cursive looking F. We've got a weird looking MF. So what these actually are telling us the dynamics of the song. It's how hard or soft, or how loud or soft to play the song. And these are very, very important. These symbols are what give the song character. If you just play through the song and it's the same volume the whole time, it gets really boring for the listener. So you want to pay special attention to these dynamics. So this is going to be when we come in, F stands for forte, which is loud. MF is mezzo forte, which is a little bit softer. And we've got a P, which is for piano, which is soft. And then we've got a PP, which is for pianissimo, which is softer than that. So ideally there's more, but four main ones. Pianissimo, very soft. Piano, a little bit louder. Mezzo forte, a little bit louder. And forte, a little bit louder than that. So this particular piece only has two dynamics. It's got loud and a little less loud than that. So there's really not a lot of softness. There's not a lot of emotion to this song. You know, I like to, when I see it get soft and loud, it sort of evokes emotion. And a lot of times there'll be a push and pull in the song where it'll speed up and then it'll slow down. This song, it gets loud and then it gets a little less loud. And it's really used for those moments in the beginning, and you'll see here we go from, you know, forte to mezzo forte as well. So we start out really loud, like attack that, like da 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 da, and then we get a little lighter, da 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 da. But we're never soft by any means. It's all relative, and it all starts out loud. So if you start out really loud, you just need to know that you just need to get a little bit softer when you see this particular sign. So those are the dynamics. We'll be paying special attention to those as we learn this piece and as we move through it. So luckily there's only two dynamics for this first piece, so once again it's a great piece for first learning. Number one, because it's in the key of C. Number two, it's only got two dynamics. And another reason it's a little bit easier is because there's not a huge variety of notes. So I'm going to get into the notes, and we'll have to discuss this at some point. There's eighth notes, quarter notes, triplets in here. So what that means is it's the duration of the note, right? So how do you know how long to hold down the note when you're reading music? How do I know that it's da 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 and not da 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 da, right? You know, you've got to be able to look at the music and tell how long you're going to hold each note. And I'll go over this in more depth as well as we start the course, but these are eighth notes. And feel free to look these up and get more familiar with the actual syntax. These are eighth notes. This is a quarter note. And we have something called a triplet here. So I think the eighth notes, quarter notes, and triplets are the only notes that we're going to be seeing in here. And they're all pretty straightforward, and all the rhythms are, once again, not too bad. I mean, there's some interesting here. This is an interesting rhythm, but we'll have some fun with it. So that is the notes and the durations. We also see something here. This greater than sign is what it looks like, but that's an accent mark. And what that's telling us is it's a dynamic accent mark. It says, hey, I want you to play these extra loud, like put some force on those keys, really get us excited about it. So we're accenting those particular notes. So anytime you see this symbol, the greater than sign, you know you want to really hit those keys, really make an impact on it. Then you'll also notice there's some dots above some of these notes. Well, that's the staccato marking. And that means I want you to hit that note and immediately release it. It's got to be short, very short. So as opposed to da 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 da, you're going to be doing something like da 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 da. All right. So that's the difference between legato and staccato. And it's symbolized by that little dot right there. So anytime you see that, it's telling you I want you to hit this quick. So for instance, this measure here is da da da, right? So we've got short, long, short. Okay. So that covers a decent amount of the stuff. A few more things to hit. I know this is a lot to take in. Once again, I just want to give you guys a high level of what we're looking at on the page here as we learn. And don't get overwhelmed. Once again, don't get overwhelmed. It's a learning process. You're learning a new language here, so you want to be really patient with yourself. Give yourself time to absorb it. Really take some of the things that I'm saying and go look them up online. Go look them up on Wikipedia. But don't let yourself get too worried about knowing every little detail, because I'll walk you through it. You don't need to know any of this to play the song, but ideally you'll be able to learn something, and you'll be able to be more expressive. Or I mean, maybe your goal is to learn to read sheet music, so I hope to help out there. So we go here. These little dots right here, this means we want to repeat this section of the music. So we've got an A section here, and they just labeled it A so that you can know the difference. And it's broken into four main melodies over the course of 6 or 7 different sections. But that means we're going to play this section, right hand and left hand, and when we get here, we're going to repeat it. So these 2 dots are the repeat sign. That means go all the way back to the beginning of the section, which is, you can identify pretty easily by the thick bar line. And then we're going to play this over again. So the da 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 da. Play again. Da 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 da. All right. So that means that's what the repeat is. That's telling us that we want to repeat that. And this song is full of repeats. Squiggly lines, you may have seen these as well. We haven't talked about those yet. Those are rests, and rests have durations similar to notes. Eighth, quarter, half, whole. You need to know how long not to play as well as how long to play. So you'll see these symbols throughout. These are the rests. That's a quarter rest. This is a eighth rest. And I believe there's a portion in the song where we have a whole rest. Once again, don't freak out too much about that. That's a half rest. And I think we have on the 3rd page here, let me switch over to it. We have a whole rest. Okay. So those are the different rest types. You'll also see some complications here with this symbol. It looks like the pound symbol, but that's actually a sharp. So I'm sure you've heard the words sharp and flat. They're pretty popular in music, obviously, and they describe the notes a half step above for sharp and a half step below for flat of the given note. So don't get too concerned about that, but just know if you see this symbol, it's called an accidental. It's called an accidental because it's telling us that this note isn't actually in the key signature that we specified. Remember, the key signature is C, which means only the white notes. When we see an accidental, it says, okay, maybe this is going to be a black note. Okay? And just keep that in mind. When you see that, it's going to tell us that we're going to be playing a different note than what we're used to playing for that particular key signature. And when you see it once in a measure, it stays sharp or flat for the rest of that measure. So this is a measure from line to line. And a measure will have, in the time signature, how many beats per measure is that top number. So we said this time signature is 2-2. That means we've got 2 beats per measure, and the beat is the half note, which means you hold it 1, 2, 3, 4. You hold it for 2. Okay. All right. So we've got plenty of accidentals here. We've got a sharp here. We've got a flat here. A couple sharps, couple flats, and a natural sign. So this is saying, okay, go back to whatever is in the key signature. Sometimes they'll put those in there so you're not confused. It's really a nice tip of the hat. It's understood that it's a natural because there's no other sharps or flats, any accidentals in here. But a lot of times when someone's arranging music, they remember, oh, this is for easy piano. Let me make sure this person knows that we're going back to the actual natural of this note. Let's see if there's anything else in here that might come as a surprise. Okay. On page 3, at the very end of the song, there's a DS and FO. And that's telling us basically what we want to do. It's telling us to go to the sign and I'll show you what the sign is in a second, and then fade out. So this says go all the way back to the sign that you saw in the piece. And on page 1, if you remember correctly, we saw this weird little symbol. That is the sign. That's where we go back to. So we'll go, after we play the song, we'll go all the way back to the main melody, da 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 da, and then we'll fade out. I mean, if it's the background music, you know, if you've ever played the game, it never has an end. It just loops over and over and over. So you can kind of decide when you want to stop, and a lot of times I'll just play this a couple more times and then just let it fade out. But it's really up to you to decide how far you want to go. You could play it over and over and over if you wanted to. But at this point, you can sort of just fade off it whenever you want to there. All right. So a lot that we discussed there. I'll be starting the video soon to actually go through the measures. We're going to take our time with it. We're really going to do just a few measures each lesson to get comfortable with it. We might take it in the different melodies. So we might do the A section in one video, and then in another video we might do the B section. But even that, I think we might break up even further, because here's the thing, a lot of times the work that goes into it isn't shown on YouTube, so you don't know how hard these people are working. I want to shed some light onto that. I want you to see how long it takes to learn something, how you should be practicing, and the work that goes into it. So if we just do 2 or 3 measures per lesson, but we really nail those and really learn them very good, then that's an accomplishment, right? It's not about setting down and just cranking out a piece. It's a process. You got to learn the finger positions. Where do I put my fingers that make the most sense so that I can efficiently navigate the keys in a way that's fluid, right? It's all about working smarter and not harder. So you can really build up finger strength, really learn some things. So we'll probably do 4 or 5 measures each lesson, and I'm very much looking forward to it. So take some of these concepts that we went over today, do a little bit of homework, get a little bit more familiar with what's going on, and I will see you next time for the first video, Ground of Background Music. Thank you guys so much. Remember to hit that subscribe button if you're liking the content so far, and it'll get better over time. I'll be working on some equipment and hopefully getting some nice quality videos for you guys. So I hope you have a great week. Thank you so much for coming, and we'll talk to you later. Bye-bye.